I was trying to figure out, and I finally figured out in the past 12 months, where is all this water going to come from? Because the men that I was interviewing, they were in the audience like you guys. They weren't the scientists. The Navy just told these men in these classified briefings what would be happening. They didn't tell them how or why. They didn't need to know. They told them what would be happening. They told them that these oceans would become violent and have massive, violent tidal waves that would wipe out all areas near the coast. Up until last year, I was thinking, oh, melting ice at Antarctica, melting ice at Greenland. But how could it melt that fast? Well, it can't melt that fast, even with what we're going through. It turns out the answer was right in front of me all the time. There's a quote from Velikovsky that I'll be reading here in a moment when we get to it. It turns out that the knowledge is something all oceanographers know, and a lot of people in geology departments in every university knows. There is a bulge of water at the equator. Now we're talking about sea level here. Sea level is measured at Cornwall, England. It's a couple hundred years ago, England was kind of running things when it came to oceans, and they got to pick where to measure sea level, and they measured it at They got a big rock. There's a line there. That's sea level. It turns out that sea level varies as much as 494 feet up and down from that rock in Cornwall, England. Now that's like a 50-story building. I mean, it's a lot of water. And there's a bulge of literally millions of cubic miles, 1 mile by 1 mile by 1 mile, cubic miles. Millions of cubic miles of water bulge at the equator of this planet. It wasn't common knowledge for John Moore, I found out. It's not common knowledge for most people. It's held in place by two things, the rotation of the Earth and gravity. Anything that changes our true north, our pole, by more than just a couple of degrees will cause that water to be disrupted. And there's a technical term for it, slosh. And there's records locked up in bones and stone of this having happened in the past. Velikovsky talked about it extensively in his books. Talk a little bit about this water damage. You have a map in your handout. Now, from Washington, D.C. to Boston is basically one big city. Since World War II, that's what it's become. One big city. All that's going to be gone. Going down the coast to Atlanta and down to Florida. Florida, the highest point in Florida is on the Panhandle, 55 feet above sea level. Florida's finished, except for a small part of the isthmus, maybe. And that's a big maybe. Gulf Coast, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi are pretty much going to be gone. In fact, the new mouth of the Mississippi will be at the current Arkansas-Louisiana state line, a couple hundred miles up from where it is right now. Going down around the coast of Texas, Texas will take damage about 100 miles inland. California will take damage 25 to 100 miles inland, depending on a couple of things, the level of the altitude above sea level and seismic activity. On up the west coast to Oregon and Seattle, all coastal areas being damaged 50 to 100 miles inland. And once again, seismic activity is going to play a big role in what happens. Locally in the Midwest, we have something called the New Madrid Seismic Zone. Once the Mississippi River becomes 50 to 100 miles wide, the U.S. Navy, not John Moore, the U.S. Navy says it will trigger at least 3 9-point plus earthquakes on the New Madrid seismic zone. Southern Illinois will basically be one large swamp. In fact, southern Illinois is already pretty swampy. If you fly over the Mississippi River right now, you can see where the river used to be. You can see where its banks were at one time. A much, much larger river than it is now. I mentioned Wisconsin will be gone. The Great Lakes will become one vast inland sea joining up with Hudson Bay up in Canada. That's what the Navy says. And it's kind of ironic and kind of caught my attention when all of these Navy veterans, these submarine veterans, they all look at this map and they say, John, Wisconsin's gone. It's finished. There's not going to be any more Wisconsin. Florida's gone. Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, finished, gone. Okay, I need a volunteer. Who wants a free copy of my book? Clyde, come on up. You can just stand here, Clyde, and when I ask you the questions, you can give your answers, whatever answer you see fit. You're going to get the book anyway. Okay. Now, I've got some products here in this box, since you volunteered, you're going to get the chance to be well hard about lab rats and guinea pigs. Clyde's going to be our guinea pig here. This first product is Spectracide, insecticide. Now, there's a point I'm going to be making here, ladies and gentlemen, and here's the point. Sometimes secrets are hidden in plain sight. If you can't keep it in the file cabinet locked up, sometimes you have to hide them in plain sight. Now, this stuff will kill all these, I mean, pretty much any kind of bug there is. Okay? And it says here, if you swallow it, you should call poison control. I mean, that's reasonable, right? Sure. Okay. Now, I've got a Q-tip here. Now, if I open this up, and would you allow me to swab it underneath your tongue?
No.
You don't have to swallow it, just, I'll swab it and then you spit it out. Would you go for that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm scared of that stuff.
Okay. This is a smart man here. Now I've got two more products in the box there. And they also have insecticide in them. In fact, I'm going to read what the effects are of this. If you get this stuff in you, death, nausea, vomiting, abdominal distress, diarrhea, stupor, weakness, muscular weakness, tremors, convulsions, respiratory cardiac failure. Now, I'll make the same offer to you, Clyde. These two products here that have this insecticide on it. Just a little swab underneath the tongue.
I think I'll pass.
You pass on that? Okay. Now, these.
I don't trust medicines.
Well, this isn't medicine. This is.
Well, I mean, some of the stuff is
Now, it says right on here, just like the insecticide, it says if you swallow the product, that you should call poison control. Because, in fact, this insecticide and this product, they can't sell it as a separate product as insecticide anymore. It's too dangerous. It used to be. I mean, 40 years ago, they would sell it in pure form for insecticide, but it's too dangerous to even let loose in the environment anymore. But here's the two products right here. Colgate and Crest.
yeah, fluoride.
Yeah. Sodium fluoride is one of the most hazardous, one of the most dangerous substances known to man. And it says right on the box, right here, that if you swallow it, you should call poison control. That if you swallow it, you should call poison control. That if you swallow it, you should... Well, what about a little swab under the tongue?
Yeah.
You already told me you wouldn't do it.
No, they get into your system.
There's lots, especially for children, there's lots of medications that it says put under the tongue. Because that mucous membrane instantly puts it in your bloodstream. Instantly. Hiding in plain sight, that's the point. Thank you, Clyde. And here's your copy of your book. If I can get it without knocking off everything here. Thank you, sir. We appreciate your help. Hiding things in plain sight, that's the point. If you can't keep it locked up in secret, you hide it in plain sight. Colgate and Crest, there's probably more of that toothpaste sold than any two